This dream was documented February 6th of 2025, and it reads, my middle sister and myself and one other person, a male. I think it may have been either our older brother or our younger male cousin who grew up with us. The three of us were all sitting outside on the front porch steps, just hanging out and conversing because, it was a nice, calm day. As we were talking, my attention was drawn to the sky. I looked up and saw a huge twister coming towards us. I stood up immediately and quickly tapped my sister to get her attention. I pointed upward and told her, look! As soon as she looked up, we could both see this pink and yellow twister coming right towards our direction. Before it got within about 100 feet of us, it crashed onto the ground and scattered, came back together, bounced back, and went back up into the sky, regrouped itself, and formed back into the twister formation. And then it went in the opposite direction of where we were. So again, I'll pause here to explain what I saw. It's very hard to do, but I'll explain what I saw. So whether you say twister or tornado, we saw this pink and yellow spinning whirlwind coming towards us in the sky. Then before it got to us, we saw it smash down into the ground as if someone had slapped it down with their hand. It quickly smashed into the ground, and when it hit the ground, it dispersed. It went everywhere. It scattered. But then it came back and regrouped itself together. When it crashed into the ground, we could see that it looked like a twister, but it was actually a swarm made up of pink and yellow moths. So when we saw it regrouping and reforming itself, that was actually the moths coming back together. And then they created this twister formation again. Something that I looked up to further help myself understand this after documenting the dream, I remember seeing birds do this. Um, I don't know why they did this, but on a security camera one time, I saw just a large group of birds all smash into the ground and into the building at the same time. And then slowly, eventually, some of them quickly bounced back, but some of them didn't make it. They took a little bit longer, but eventually got back up. And so I was looking it up, and when you look up starling's murmuration, you will see how these birds like flock together in a swarm, and they kind of move in the sky like an entity, like one entity. It's really, really amazing to see. It's very, very mesmerizing. It's very, very mesmerizing. Another thing I looked up when I saw the birds that fell into the ground in the building, I typed in birds dive bomb. So those two things will help you get a better visualization of the pink and yellow moth twister that I saw come towards us, smash into the ground, regroup itself back into a twister, and go the other way. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, let me continue with the dream. So I frantically told my sister, get up, we gotta go. I quickly helped her up while making that statement, and we hurried into the house. I remember having to call downstairs to my oldest nephew. Yes, Aunt Chris? He responded inquisitively. You need to come inside. There's a storm coming, I told him. He was just below the steps where we had been sitting, and around the corner. He was hanging out with his cousins in a different building next to the house. It was almost like a basement, but it was disconnected and on the side of the house. My nephew relayed the message to his cousins. Y'all, and Chris said, you need to come upstairs. I don't know why, but in the dream, I wasn't sure about having the other kids come upstairs. I originally only meant for him to come upstairs, which is weird. I'll give a little side note again. This was weird because I'm huge when it comes to my nieces and nephews. I help my siblings raise their children, and so they're like my own, right? So I would never exclude any of them. So this was something that I didn't normally do within this dream. So that made me take note of this action and go, why, what is that? Why does that happen? I believe the revelation that after documenting this dream, the Most High has given me is that my other nieces and nephews represented um this generation of children and their disdain for the things of the Most High, and how they are rebellious in nature. They're used to getting their way. They do not like to listen to authority or be corrected, and they're just a hassle to deal with. Whereas my nephew in this dream, he was representing the other side of that generation who fear the Most High and respect and honor their parents, are obedient, and yeah, they're easier to deal with in terms of raising and rearing. So just that side note. Going back to the dream, I originally only meant for him to come upstairs. But then, as I stood at the top of the stairs and watched them each come up one by one, I made sure to ask them if they were sure that they wanted to come and that this was not a joke. They needed to be able to listen. Part of that, deviating from the dream now, part of that was because I knew it was a serious situation. And I also knew that they were hard to rear, hard to get under authority. They were hard to get in control, right? And not a negative type of control, but a type of control where everybody works together as a unit and do what they're told for the good of the entire community or group. And I knew that that particular generation of kids and the way that they behave, they thrive on doing the opposite of whatever you tell them. And we just couldn't afford to have that, knowing what I knew that something big was about to happen. So that is why I stopped them on the stairs to make sure that they understood the severity of the situation and that disobedience would not be tolerated. Now, going back to the dream, the thing that changed my mind is that I could tell that they were scared and that they wanted to come up and were willing to listen. They were willing to be obedient. I instructed them all to go up to the rooms and keep the noise down. My middle sister, she took over and dealt with the kiddos, while I went back to secure the front door. My brother and male cousin were also walking toward the front door from a different direction in the house. And so we met together at the front entrance. The entire front entrance was made of two glass doors and two floor to ceiling windows on the sides of the double doors. And because of this, we were able to clearly see what was going on outside. There was definitely a storm brewing. It reminded me of a scene in the Netflix series Raising Dion, if you've ever seen that. The sky was super scary. It was crackling. There were extremely dark gray clouds, and they were moving in like really quickly. Things were really starting to get dark quickly, and the lightning and the thunder was just going. It was a scary situation. Just outside of the house, we could see one of our cousins' daughter. She was standing outside next to her vehicle. We opened one of the doors and beckoned for her to come in. Get inside, I told her. She had been standing there, looking at the house nervously, trying to figure out what she was going to do. We could see her, but she couldn't see inside of the house. Once she was inside, my brother and I secured and locked the doors. We set the alarm and were about to walk away to go secure the rest of the house. But then I said, wait, let's make sure that it's good. So we stood there and listened to the AI voice of the alarm system say, 3 beeps means you're good to go. The alarm system beeped only once, and then we heard this. Now allow Romans 1 disaster. My brother and I looked at each other with the quickness. The both of us had bulging eyes and a shocked look on our faces. What the heck did that thing just say? Why didn't it beep 3 times? What is the Romans 1 disaster? I woke up immediately once I heard that. I knew that it was important and that I had to write this dream down. After documenting the dream, I read the entire first chapter of Romans in the Bible. The verses that stood out to me were as follows. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. Because that which is known about God is evident within them, for God made it evident to them. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood through what has been made, so that they are without excuse. For even though they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks, but they became futile in their speculations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Professing to be wise, they became fools, and exchanged the glory of the incorruptible God for an image in the form of corruptible man, and of birds, and 4-footed animals, and crawling creatures. Therefore, God gave them over in the lust of their hearts to impurity, so that their bodies would be dishonored among them. For they exchanged the truth of God for a lie, and worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this reason, God gave them over to degrading passions. For their women exchanged the natural function for that which is unnatural. And in the same way, also the men abandoned the natural function of the woman and burned in their desire toward one another, men with men committing indecent acts and receiving in their own persons the due penalty of their error. And just as they did not see fit to acknowledge God any longer, God gave them over to a depraved mind to do those things which are not proper, being filled with all unrighteousness, wickedness, greed, evil, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, malice. They are gossips, slanderers, haters of God, insolent, arrogant, boastful, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, without understanding, untrustworthy, unloving, unmerciful. And although they know the ordinance of God, that those who practice such things are worthy of death, they not only do the same, but also give hearty approval to those who practice them. That's Romans 1, verses 18 through 32. And I read the New American Standard Bible Version. This dream had me like sit up all the way in the bed as soon as I woke up. And I just knew that I had to write it down. And I've shared with you what I understand, what Yah has revealed to me thus far. If He reveals anything else, I'll always come back to the video and add the understanding that He's granted me. But so far, this is my understanding. And the feeling that I got while in the dream is that the situation is severe, it's serious. It's not going to end well for those who thrive in disobedience and who wear disobedience as a badge of honor. And so I encourage you to pray for your children, to pray for your family, even. There are adults who are walking in and thriving in disobedience and living a lifestyle of do what thou wilt. People just want to do what they want to do. They don't want anybody to criticize them. They don't want anybody to give them rules. They don't want anybody to judge them. They just want to do them. They just want to do what they want to do, and they don't want anyone to have anything to say about it. And that is just not how the kingdom of heaven operates. In fact, that's not how any kingdom operates. If you just do a little bit of research to understand the culture of a kingdom and a kingdom citizen and how they are not allowed to just do anything that they want, all kingdoms have laws and order. They all have, structure. Nobody's meant to just do their own thing within the kingdom. And so I encourage you to think about this dream, pray to the Most High regarding its meaning and how it applies to your life and what He wants you to hear from it or take from it. I encourage you to open your eyes and just know that the age that we're living in now is coming to an end, regardless of what anybody says. Revelation is unfolding in front of our eyes, and it behooves us to begin to seek the Most High earnestly and really, really seek to understand His character and His instructions for our lives, for our children, for our spouses, for our families, if they will listen to us. And also understand that there are going to be some family members that you have to leave behind, because if you are not willing to leave them behind, then you get caught up in the mess, in the judgment, in the repercussions that are coming from the Most High. And even in scripture, the Most High tells His people to flee from that corrupt place so that you won't have to partake in the judgment that it definitely is coming upon that place. So I just encourage you to take this to the Most High, pray about it. May God bless you and your family. Shalom.